huge inventory of about 2,000 vehicles by clicking on our ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome in to the WTIM, your information station. My name is Tim Zalabak, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. We'd like to thank our sponsors that make it all possible, People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better at Landmark. In my studio now is Mike Ozer. He is a business development and wealth management officer with CNB Bank and Trust. Mr. Mike Ozer, we really appreciate you for coming in today.
Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right into it. We want to learn a little bit about you before we get into all of these services and things provided by CNB Bank and Trust. You got a long title here. It's a pretty cool title. Tell us about yourself.
Yep. Well, at CNB Bank and Trust, I do a couple different services. My primary role is business development. What that means is I meet with bank clients, different prospective clients in the areas, and kind of just sit down with them, go over our services, develop some of the relationships, and go over some of the goals that they have. From there, I figure out if it's a good fit for us, and then we kind of go from there.
Sure. Okay. Very cool. So before we move into all the great services and definitely things that need to be explained, and I'm very excited to be learning about these today, we got to read off just a little bit of a disclosure here. CNB Wealth Management Services are not a deposit, not FDIC insured, not insured by any federal government agency, and not guaranteed by the bank. May go down in value. So just read that off for everyone, just to protect ourselves, I guess, right?
That's right.
No one's getting in trouble now. So now we can start this conversation. So talk to me a little bit about investments with CNB Bank and Trust. What's that consultation process? If I want to come in and talk to you, I know nothing. How does this go?
Yep. So our first step is, again, like I said, sitting down with the client, kind of developing what kind of goals it is that they're looking to accomplish. In wealth management, we're working with individual investors, but we're also working with institutions. We're working with nonprofits. So each one of those would be a different, unique type of situation or conversation. But depending on which way that went, we try to gather some facts as far as, timelines, different references that they may have, and different professionals that they may already be working with in the community, as far as maybe a CPA, an attorney, and coordinate those efforts to make sure that we're getting them to where they're looking to go.
Wow. Okay. So it's getting all the players involved that need to be, it seems like.
That's correct. Yeah.
And these people that you just mentioned, lawyers and CPAs, not everyone might have them, or the clients you're working with, do they usually have them? What is that like?
You know what? That's usually about 50-50. If somebody's already got a relationship that they've been working with, whether through its different generations or different corporations, if it may be a business entity, a farm, or something like that, we will definitely work with them. If that's not the case, we have a lot of different professionals that we've vetted over the course of the last many, many years that we can make recommendations to. That way we can really coordinate and make the whole process as simple and as painless as possible for the client.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even if you didn't have one of these professionals on hand, you guys can provide that as well.
We do, and we work in different areas in this community, and as well as the surrounding communities as well. So we've got people over in the Springfield area, Decatur, just depending on where the client's actually located at.
Sure. You mentioned all the information being gathered, and I have questions about, why do you need family information and what stuff like that?
Right. So in our department, we were really started as a trust department. And in a trust department, what ends up happening there is we take care of financials for people who can't take care of them, whether that be somebody that has a disabled child or has children or grandchildren that they want to take care of future generations down the line. The beneficiaries of those assets may not be ready to make decisions, and that's where we would step in. As a fiduciary, we are held in a different standard than some, which means that we are legally obligated to act in the client's best interest. And that's not something that we take very lightly.
Sure. So explain that part to me. You just explained to us what being a fiduciary advisor means. Does that mean other financial advisor, corporations, they don't offer the best possible?
Well, it's not that they don't offer it, and I'm sure that they act in the client's best interest. But we're just at a bank and trust, we're kind of regulated a little bit differently than what you would deal with on a broker dealer type side. So we don't offer any proprietary products. What we're really doing is going out and searching all the realms of different investment options that are available, and creating portfolios that are unique and different for that specific client. It's a very individualized approach.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. And being held to a higher standard, what does that mean for the people that walk into your doors?
It means that they can trust us. It means that they can really just, let their guard down. They know that we're not trying to push any type of agenda. When we sit there and we're looking at legal documents in a trust that says that we need to, work with this goal in mind, it allows us to take and eliminate any kind of conflicts of interest, and really follow that to a T, to make sure that you're getting the information and the advice that is pertinent to your situation, as opposed to just kind of more of a cookie cutter approach.
Sure. Do conflicts of interest arise with other institutions because they are not held to this standard, and they can have? Do they have workarounds? They save money. They make money. How does that work?
You know what? I don't necessarily know, because I have, my career has been more in that realm. So I don't work as much on that side. So, like I said, I would hate to guess that somebody's not doing something that's ethical. I just know that in, as things go on and things get a lot more transparent, it really fits the mold that we've been established with to begin with.
Yeah. Building total trust with the community here, and all these
Right.
personalized ways you're doing it. It seems you mentioned not cookie cutter. It's,
Correct.
You're coming in, you're explaining every single detail about your financial status.
Well, each person's situation is unique. We want to be wanting to offer an approach that would fit the masses, when everybody's situation is very, very unique to their own situation.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So that's really awesome there. We just learned about the fiduciary aspect of CNB Bank and Trust. Anything else for the listeners to know about that before we talk about some other services?
I think that's probably more than I could really go into. After that, it really starts getting into a lot of legal jargon. So, yeah.
If you want to know more about it, you can get in contact.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You can contact me at my direct line. It's 217-408-0114. Again, 217-408-0114. Any question, please don't hesitate to call, and I can try to clarify it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for reading off that number. And I'm sure some people wrote that down because they got some questions for you. Now, we're talking services provided by CNB Bank and Trust. Can you go into some more that people can utilize?
Yep. So certain services that we offer are, individual management accounts. Those are really just what they sound like. They are an individual managed account, where it may be a retirement account, an old 401k, a rollover, maybe inheritance, something that you're going to use for yourself. That's a good chunk of the business that we do. Other services that we offer are trust services. Trust services usually step in when assets start to get to a certain dollar amount, that there becomes tax ramifications and other legal ramifications that trust can kind of step in, become its own entity, and take away some of those liabilities that may actually still be on the client. So when we utilize our trust services, there's different trust types of accounts: living trusts, revocable trusts, irrevocable trusts, and so on and so forth. But that would be the secondary part. That is probably the biggest, or the next biggest part is the trust services. After that, we do institutional accounts, we do nonprofits, we do municipalities, we do corporations or farm accounts. We have a whole department that handles farm management. Down in our Carlinville branch is where they're actually based out of. So there's a lot of different services that we can utilize when we start using different types of accounts. But the overall aspect of it would be the wealth management side. So when we're working with accounts, no matter which one it's for, institutional, nonprofit, individuals, 401ks, sitting down and having a conversation with clients as far as their risk management, risk tolerance, their time horizon, then we can really start to dig into the type of assets that we'd be looking at investing in, to make the client the most comfortable for their risk level.
Sure. You mentioned quite a few different realms right there, but I always find it interesting hearing about the farming financial realm there, because that's one thing I just learned about moving into an agriculture related community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of land to protect. There's a lot of things to protect right there.
Right.
That's very popular.
It's very popular, especially, a lot of that land in these areas have came from different generations. When you start working with generational farms, not everybody's on the same page. And when we're starting to look at succession planning, who's up next for this land, who's going to be playing what role, are all the parties on the same page? And we find that most of the time that, there are different people that are involved in an operation like that may not have the same ideas as what other, past generations should have. So, the farming community is still relatively new to me as well. I've been in the Midwest for about 12 years, originally from Southern California. So it's great working with a lot of farmers. They're some of the best sense of humor that I've met. And so they're that creates a whole different type of conversation that we have. And we have a few different people that are really that really head up our farm management departments, and they're down in Carlinville, and they'd be able to answer a lot more of the questions than probably I can.
Sure. That is a huge world right there, and we're learning now that you come from across the country. So
I do.
Yeah, that's really cool right there, and it's interesting that you've gotten to meet with these people. And you mentioned past generations of land. And there's a whole lot to unpack there, and it's really needed to be helped with by a professional with CNB Bank and Trust.
Right. I couldn't agree anymore. That's exactly how I'd say it. Thank
Sure.
you, Tim.
Yeah, no, of course. We're going to take ourselves a little break right now. It's about that time, but I'm sitting down right now with Mike Ozer. His title is a Business Development and Wealth Management Officer with CNB Bank and Trust. We've been learning about their services today and how they can help you or your institution or your nonprofit. It's been a great conversation so far. We'll be right back here with Mike Ozer in just a little bit. My name is Tim Zalabak, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.
Your information station, WTIM.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn lower, beans lower, wheat trading higher. March corn down 2 3/4, 487 3/4. May corn down 3, 499. July corn 507 down 3 1/4. January beans down 5 3/4, 1299 3/4. March beans down 5 3/4, 1320 3/4. May beans 1336 down 6 1/2. March wheat up 6, 637 1/4. May wheat up 4 1/2, 648 1/2. January bean meal 413.40. That's down 440. And January bean oil down 11 cents, 50.15. Livestock market, January feeders up 237, 217.07. December live cattle up 32 cents, 168.82. And December lean hogs up 27 cents, 67.10. Energy market at this hour, January crude oil is down $1.84. 70.48. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Your farmer-owned dairy, Prairie Farms, wants you to enjoy the holiday season even more. That's why they're now offering new 14-ounce grab-and-go personal-size eggnog. It's available now in your grocer or C-store dairy case. This new personal-size eggnog is in addition to their quart sizes of eggnog and holiday custard. No family celebration is complete without them. Grab-and-go personal-size eggnog and quart sizes of eggnog and holiday custard from farmer-owned Prairie Farms Dairy.
Applications for residency are now being accepted at Rolling Meadows Senior Living. Rolling Meadows offers seniors 62 and older a smoke-free facility with round-the-clock maintenance, controlled access, large kitchens with full-size appliances, on-site laundry facilities, complimentary Wi-Fi and common areas, and more. Call 217-287-2450 to schedule an appointment. Rolling Meadows is sponsored by Lutheran Social Services of Illinois and funded through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Federal Home Bank of Chicago. Rolling Meadows is an equal housing opportunity provider.
At Central Illinois Outdoors, with me, Jared White, we want you to be a part of the program as well via the Archer's Alley Catch of the Week. Each week, we'll select one of your pictures submitted at centralillinoisoutdoors.com and invite you to tell your story of the great outdoors. We're looking for your kid's first catch or even your first big buck. There's a simple, easy form you can fill out on your phone or computer at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. Send us your story, send us your pic. centralillinoisoutdoors.com and the Catch of the Week, brought to you by Archer's Alley, North 22nd Street in Decatur.
Hi, this is Carrie Ostwick, financial advisor with Edward Jones, located at 601 North Webster Street in Taylorville. To find out all the services we provide, click our icon on the obituaries page of TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
I'm Kim Bourne, CEO of Taylorville Memorial Hospital, and we're hiring experienced nurses to join our great team. Learn more by clicking on our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm your host, Tim Zalabak. Today, we're sitting down with Mike Ozer. Excuse me, I had an N in there. Mike Ozer. He's Business Development and Wealth Management Officer with CNB Bank and Trust. We've been learning a lot today. Before we do get back into the CNB Bank and Trust talk, I would like to read off this disclosure. CNB Wealth Management Services are not a deposit, not FDIC insured, not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, and the bank may go down in value. Now that's out there, we're going to get back into our conversation here. We had a conversation during the break, and I can agree with Mike's statement here is that a lot of this vocabulary, a lot of things we're talking about, it's not common knowledge. It's not a crazy thing for you to not understand what you're saying right now, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I would say that it may be common knowledge, maybe not common terminology.
Sure.
A lot of the conversations that we have, the clients know what they want, and we know how to get it for them. We may use different terms than what they're used to using at a coffee table or a kitchen table. And that's, as we sit down and we kind of get to know people a little bit more, we understand that. And so we can start using words that make more sense to people in those situations.
Yeah. And so now if we do bring up a topic and you have a couple of questions out there, if you're listening to it, we can give you a call.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm available really anytime. Like I said, I gave you that office number. It's 408-0114, but it rings to my cell. It rings to. I got emails beeping all over the time. So there's a lot of different ways you can contact me, but the easiest way is that phone number, and somebody will be able to get you in touch with me.
Awesome. All right. So now that you know that, the disclaimer there, we're going to try to use, the most layman's terms we can. We're going to try to start talking about some trusts here, living trusts. What's the first thing we need to know about CNB Bank and trusts?
Yep. So a living trust is really designed to protect and grow clients' wealth. And they do it a couple different ways, depending on how we title trusts. Ideally, what it's there put for is for future generations or to limit liability. So how we actually sit down and have those conversations are going to be, again, dependent on the actual client.
Sure.
When we start working down there to those different types of entities.
Sure. Everything we've talked about today is super personal to each person and organization that walks in your door. That's why those conversations are very important.
They're very important, and those conversations change. They change sometimes as quickly as monthly, but we like to have reviews with our clients semi-annually, sit down and make sure that we're still fully understanding their situation and what their goals are, make sure that nothing's changed, either regulatory or at their house. Because as we know, the only thing that is constant is change.
Sure.
So we try to work with, tax codes and different, continuing educations to make sure that we're staying up on different regulations and laws to make sure we're getting the most out of our services.
Sure. So if I find myself in a position where a living trust is something I could do, when's the optimal time to start that process?
Really, the optimal time to start is as soon as you're starting to have those thoughts, because there's a reason that triggered that thought in your head. Usually that's a life-changing event, whether you've lost somebody and you're going through it as a beneficiary dealing with somebody else's estate, and you want to get those things in order before you're ultimately not around to make those decisions for yourselves, and put somebody in an opportunity or a position where they have to make decisions that maybe they don't have all the information to make.
Sure.
So getting that started as early as possible, and then we can tweak it as things move on.
All right. Perfect. We are in our last minute here, Mr. Mike Ozer. Any last words for our listeners out there that might be considering CNB Bank and Trust?
No, not really. Our department is got decades and decades of experience in many different situations. So if I don't have an answer, I know I have somebody in my department that is here locally that can answer any question. So when you work with us, you are working with a team.
Awesome. Mr. Mike Ozer, thank you so much for coming in today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tim.
Without a doubt. That's Mike Ozer, Business Development and Wealth Management Officer with CNB Bank and Trust. And my name's Tim Zalabek, your host of the WTIM Morning Show. Thank you all for listening.
Your information station, WTIM.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 C